Next month I can stop it all. So, but you got a budget, yeah.
I'm sure it doesn't bring us numbers.
No. I'm man.
Yeah, because you're afraid to forget it. I do the same thing. So when I do it, I send myself an email. Everything's being and then I text it to like Brandon or Truxel or somebody like that, like 7 o'clock. Let's get out the door. They're gonna be so glad next time. Yeah, right. I hear you.
Well, I guess it's time to start. We might be 30 seconds early, but we'll go right. That's okay. We'll go right ahead. All right, welcome. It is 5 o'clock, Monday, May 6th. This is a regular meeting of the City Council of the City of Cape Girardeau. Thank you all for being here. We will begin tonight with the invocation by Reverend Bruce Baxter of the United Methodist Church. He is the district superintendent here in Cape Girardeau, and we will follow that with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you all would please rise and join us.
Let us pray. Lord, we thank you for this night, for this meeting that we have. We thank you that you are present, even though we cannot see you. We commit the topics tonight to your care. We pray that your grace would rule. We thank you for each person here. We pray you give folks clarity of speech and clearness in understanding. We thank you for those who work in the city, both volunteers and staff. We pray for our first responders. We give you thanks for the sacrifices they made and their readiness and willingness to be of service. So Lord, we commit this meeting to you and we give you thanks in Jesus' name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. We have nothing in the study session or presentations tonight. We will start then with communications and reports from council.
I'll just jump in really fast. I know this upcoming weekend is a big weekend for graduations, and I wanted to congratulate all of our graduates from the local high schools at Southeast Missouri State University. Anybody that's graduating from any program, hopefully you make the decision to stay in the Cape Girardeau region and add to our workforce. So we've got incredible employers and a wonderful lifestyle, and so make sure that if you're looking for employment out there post-graduation, that you look for it right here. All right, that's it.
Indeed. Anyone else? No? I just wanted to send a huge shout out to a huge number of people for all of the activity that was going on around Cape Girardeau last weekend. It was a bit of a madhouse, which was super cool. if you were downtown at all, it was hard to find a parking space. There were so many great activities going on. And so for all the organizations that were so involved and busy in putting on some great things last weekend, we just wanted to say thank you. I know also our city employees were heavily involved in all of that too. So thanks to you all for that. It was a great, great weekend to be in Cape. Next, we have items for discussion. We'll begin with asking if anyone is here to appear as an advisory board applicant. If so, yes, sir. Come on up and introduce yourself and tell us what you're doing.
Yes, my name is Thomas Drummond. I moved here in 1991 in the military, taught at Southeast Missouri State. Retired in 1995, stayed here in the area, been living here ever since. Have two children, three grandchildren that graduated from Notre Dame, two young ones that go to St. Vincent's, grandchildren. I'm very active. I'm a member of MISHA, Missouri State Activity Association. I observe softball umpires and basketball referees. So I'm very active. I'm applying for the Parks and Recs Board. I think I have a lot to offer. I do a lot with the young people. I think I can also bring things to the community by being on the MISHA board and stuff, because I would like to see softball state finals brought here, and which will bring things to the community, hotels in our downtown area. All of us going to Springfield and all of us going to Columbia. By being on that board, I think I can help vote to get that here. So that's why I'm here.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to speak? All right, thank you. We'll move on then with the consent agenda review. Dr. Haskin. Oh, excuse me, we skipped one. Forgive me. Yeah, sorry, I didn't put my glasses on. That's what happens. All right, we have a discussion item, the Cape Girardeau Water System presentation. Dr. Haskin, would you like to kick that off and turn it over then to?
Yes, Mayor. We have our team from Public Works and Alliance here in the audience. They're going to step forward and start speaking about the water treatment facility and the condition of the plant, which is critical for all of us here in this community. Team, step forward.
Hi, good evening. Thank you. Okay. For those of you that I haven't had the pleasure of meeting yet, I am Casey Brunke. I'm the Public Works Director here with the City of Cape Girardeau. And with me is Jonathan Ridings, or JJ. He is our local manager with Alliance Water Resources that we've had the pleasure of having an over 30-year partnership with ever since the city took over the city's water system in 1992. Before we kind of kick it off here, something that we did not anticipate is that on May 1st this month, Governor Parsons declared this week is Drinking Water Week. So our presentation just happens to be very timely with the governor's declaration. So with that, we'll get started here. So we're going to go over quite a few issues that we are seeing with our water system. Kind of the first one is our changing source water. We have had excellent source water out of our wells over the past decade, but have recently started to see some significant changes with that water. We've also seen an increase in demand with our city's water. So maybe the city hasn't really expanded really far, but we have certainly seen a lot of new development within the city. And everybody that develops within the city needs water to do their business, as well as every new resident that comes in. Our infrastructure, some of it has been used beyond its useful life, basically. Alliance has done a great job of kind of band-aiding everything up to this point, but we do have some water mains in the ground from the late 1800s, and our water plant needs some additional work as well. And how do we do all that? We need funding. We have a lot of big projects that we need to do, and as you'll see later on in the presentation, those also include a lot of big dollars. So some of the projects that we're going to talk about, these are the current projects that are in some state of design with the engineering companies. We worked with several different engineering companies for these 5 projects you see on the screen. The filter gallery project, if we're able to get more water through the filter gallery, that is our immediate need bottleneck that we're working on. If we can get more water through the filter gallery and we can push more water out into the distribution system. Our lime feed project, corrosion control, and chemical feed projects, those three kind of go together with our changing source water that we're seeing. And JJ will go over those in more detail. And then finally, the expansion project. That would be bringing a 4th treatment train online. Currently, we have 3, but we're barely able to keep up in the summer months with everything that we have going on to be able to push out enough water. And JJ will talk about that here in just a second. There you go.
Point at that. Okay. Thank you. Okay, the first issue I'm going to talk about is in the filter gallery. In 2019, we had a filter rate increased by DNR. We had to do trials from 2 gallons per minute per square foot to 3 gallons per minute per square foot. Doesn't sound like a whole lot, but these filters are 12 by 15. There's 14 of them. So you're talking about potentially 3.5 million gallons a day that they raised our rating of. But the issue is we can't get that much water to the filters to filtrate them. We can get the water to the basins, but if you look in the pictures on their screen there, that's the filter gallery. It moves the water from the basins to the filters. It starts off as. Did you say that was a requirement from the DNR? It's their rating. Yeah, they have a rating for filters, like how much water we can push through. They go by square foot per minute or gallons per square foot per minute. They raised it from 2 to 3 on that.
And what year was that?
2019, I believe it was.
Okay.
Yeah, we requested them to do that so we could try to force more water through if possible.
Got it.
Okay, so the issue is, you can see in the picture up there, it starts off as a 36-inch pipe leaving the basins, and it reduces multiple times down into an 8-inch. It goes from south to the north, and as you get further north, we can't get enough water to the filters to filtrate enough. The initial thought was to, simply just increase the size of the piping, but we have a hard set 8-hour window that we allow for shutdowns, because it seems like once we get to that point, we are watching the levels and out of the system. The tanks are slowly dropping, gets to a critical level. We cannot shut down the plant more than 8 hours. And so we looked into dividing it up into 7 different projects, 2 filters at a time to replace the piping. But even with that, it's so cluttered, as you look in there, the piping is, it's very congested, and we could not be guaranteed that they would be able to finish even a section of it within the 8 hours. So after a lot of thought, what we went into was adding a secondary feed line from the basins to the north side of the filters. It's going to be at an 18-inch. That way we're feeding from both the north and south ends and bypassing that bottleneck. With the expansion and everything, that expects to get us up to 10.5 to 11 million gallons a day. But in the meantime, it should be closer to 8.5 until we get the rest of the expansion. The next issue goes into the lime feed system. Cape Girardeau for a decade now has had very consistent water coming from our aquifer in our south well field up until about a year or 2 ago. Then not sure what happened, but for one thing, the iron levels, they used to be very low and steady, and now they can jump from 3 parts per million to 20 and back down to 3 within a day. It's very complicated to be able to dial in dosages with that. We have arsenic levels that have risen. There's other contaminants that are dissipate chlorine, which hampers us from being able to disinfect when we get high flows in the summer. And beyond that, it seems like the ionic charge has slightly changed as well, of the water, which we'll get more into that later on. But because of this, we did have a source water study done through Donahue Engineering, and they tested many different types of treatment. And what they found and suggested that regardless of the different types of water, different characteristics that come in, lime softening, all the clarifiers is what gave the most consistent and best results. So that is what we are pushing for. The picture is there. That is our current lime feed system. It is, when it was designed, it's designed to be able to feed 2 clarifiers. We have 3 clarifiers, so we do split treatment. We would need a lime feed line to all 3 clarifiers, plus if we have an expansion, we'll need to do a 4th. So even when this was new, it was not made to do it. But as you can look at it, it is well past its useful life. We spend more maintenance hours working on our lime feed system than any other process or part of our system. It's a lot of man hours. Also, pebble lime, these are slakers, and they slake pebble lime into a slurry. When we do that, this process creates a lot of solids, which eventually from our clarifiers get discharged to the river. We are above the EPA DNR limits there. And we will be as long as we are using the slaked lime. And also, slaked lime is very scaling, and we'll talk more about the problems that's caused in our water plant here shortly. So on tonight's agenda, there's a procurement for a hydrated lime feed system. And the picture there is not at the plant, but that is similar to what we are wanting to get. This would be able to soften all 3 clarifiers we have now, plus an additional 4th once the expansion happens. Hydrated lime is much more consistent, so the strength is, so we'll be able to dial in the dosages, saving on the chemicals there, and much less maintenance, and it creates less solids. We'll be able to, get back into the range, which will make EPA very happy with us. And then it's less scaling. So it solves all the issues we're having with our lime feed system right now.
So that would be a whole new system
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, all
Change.
that you saw in these pictures here,
Yeah.
all that goes away.
Yeah.
Yes. They can still use the same silos and some of the infrastructure, but all the actual slaking equipment, hoppers will be replaced. But once we start lime softening all the clarifiers, the thing is, softened water is corrosive water. So, I mean, it sounds scary, but when you have corrosive water, you need to feed an corrosion inhibitor. It's usually a poly or orthophosphate, what they feed. So Donahue Engineering, once again, they're doing desktop study of our system, then with our water characteristics, and they're, running it right now, trying to figure out what we need to feed. But that's another project we have, is a corrosion control inhibitor. You guys probably remember about a year ago, right about now, there was a Flint Hill came up nonstop. That was a corrosion issue. I will say our water now is not corrosive leaving the plant, but as it ages in our water system, it does become more corrosive. And we have a very large distribution system. And some of these endpoints of our distribution system are like cast iron pipes. And once it gets corrosive, it'll leach out the iron, turning into red water that we saw at Flint Hill. And that blew up. And so, but it's not corrosive leaving the plant. I can say that right now.
So is it,
Yes.
could you say that situation was what we're trying to prevent widespread in the whole system? Is that?
It's one of the things we're trying to,
okay.
because lead and copper.
Okay.
Iron, which is the red color you're getting, they call it a secondary. It's more aesthetics. So it's not a health issue, but it's a taste issue, and it stains the plumbing, and nobody wants red water. So,
Yes.
yeah.
Now, JJ,
Yes.
we have seen, this discoloring of the water in some of our households in the community. We have seen
Yes. Yes.
And how have you guys been able to Band-Aid that?
Well, one of the easiest things we do, which is a waste of water, we will flush. We'll have hydrants flushing. We have some that we can set in timers if we find that it, will help out. We have replaced lines, run like a temporary CPS lines to get away from cast iron. Those are the 2 main things we're doing. At the plant, we can make some changes to the pHs we feed to the clarifiers. And then we feed a carbonic acid as well to kind of balance it out. So we can have some things we can do at the plant, but it takes many days, sometimes up to a week, for that water to get to the very end of our distribution system. So mainly flushing. And you'll see some flush boxes out throughout town. They're kind of green boxes, sound like running water. So the next project I have, Here is chemical feed. The city of Cape Girardeau, we feed what are called chloramines. So we don't feed straight chlorine. Chlorine is actually stronger than chloramines, but chloramines will stay in the system longer, even though they're weaker. And once again, we have a large distribution system, so we want to make sure that all parts of our system are still chlorinated. So we feed the chlorine, and then after we feed the chlorine, we feed ammonia, and it combines to form chloramines. And it works great. The issue what we have is where it is fed at. It's fed, we feed the chlorine before our filters and before our sedimentation basins. And so we feed it, and then we end up tying it up with the ammonias, but since the water is not as high a quality there, you have a lot of contaminants still that will, lack of better words, eat up, it dissipates the chlorine. As that happens, you end up with the ammonia still free in the water, and which later on, as it goes in the distribution system, can cause issues of nitrites, nitrates, and blue baby syndrome. So that's one of the issues. And then the other issue is the chlorine as it dissipates, we have to maintain 1 part per million as it enters the distribution system. And last summer, we maxed out what we can feed from our chlorine feed system, and we had 15 parts in our blend tank. And without having to do other things, which we'll get to later on, we would not have been able to keep 1 part leaving the plant. So,
JJ, if you don't mind,
yes.
can you go ahead and explain what blue baby syndrome is?
I cannot pronounce the actual name of what it is. It starts with an M and a mile long, but it deals with oxygen in the blood of babies. And it can, I don't want to say something wrong here, but I mean, it can turn the skin blue. That's one thing. Some heart issues, and there's something else. There's like a long listing, like if you look it up, but I don't know a whole lot about the actual condition itself. I know it's not a good thing, but yeah.
Just so I'm understanding, those chemical issues
Yes.
are, it sounds like they're being magnified by the other issues you were just talking about.
Well, the source water issue,
yeah.
because we're having lower quality of water coming
Right.
through. It's dissipating all the chlorine, so we
Right.
don't have enough to stay tied up with the ammonia,
Yep.
which causes that.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. So an expansion, I mean, Cape is growing. We can tell that in the demand of water. We want to get new industries in here, economic growth. We're gonna have to have water for that. So one of the big projects is the plant expansion, which at least includes a 4th clarifier. Looking at that picture there, the 3 circular objects or the 3 clarifiers will be a 4th one of that, just at the bottom of the screen. And then the square basins, those are settling basins. There'll be another settling basin as well. And this is to increase the flow through the plant to 10.5 million gallons a day. All the projects we talked about earlier are actually part of the expansion as well, but those are the more critical ones right now that we're trying to move those sections up. But they all have to be done to have the plant expansion.
You can't do the expansion before you fix the problem.
Yes, yes. And you have to get the flow to the filters and a lot of the other issues fixed as well. So it's all tied together. It's a big web. And this is for, yes?
Can you go back to this previous and talk about the coloring of these 3 filters
Oh, yes.
and kind of dial in as to, the condition of these filters and why they look the way they do?
Okay, the top 2 pictures there, you see it's kind of bluish green, the bright color. Those are the 2 clarifiers that are being lime softened right now. It produces much higher quality water. It's that color because the pH is so high. It's kind of like when you look at a stream, if it's in a bunch of limestone, you'll get like pretty light blue colors. That's the color of it. But the supernatant, the clear part of the water, is much higher quality than the lower one. The lower one is a oxidation coagulation clarifier. So we feed an oxidant to it, which currently is chlorine, and then a coagulant. So the oxidant pulls the dissolved, like say metals, iron, whatever, out of the water. So then they're floating in there, kind of colloidal, not heavy enough to drop down. Then we feed a polymer that has an opposite charge of those metals that pulls it together. That's the coagulation. When it pulls together, then it is big enough and heavy enough to drop out of the bottom. So as it drops out, you end up with the sludge on the bottom, and then you end up with the supernatant, the clear part near the top. And that's what we send to the next part of the treatment. The source water is coming in now. The coagulation, flocculation part is not working. The charges is different.
Is that the ionization you were talking about earlier?
Yes.
Yeah.
And there'll be more of that in here as
Okay.
well.
Just a little bit of background real quick. How old is this plant?
1931.
Wow. All right.
There's been multiple expansions, but yeah, it's 1931. All right. And if it does keep growing, there is some room for growth as well. We have 6 existing original filters that would have to be rehabilitated. Other things would be done as well to get the flow through, but there still is land there in the future. That's a ways down the road. Okay, the distribution system. This picture here, I'm not sure if you guys, that's at Bertling and Big Bend. That was October 4th, 2022, a very bad day in the city of Cape Girardeau. Unfortunately, we have old aging infrastructure. We have a lot of water mains from the 1800s. And unless something's done, I mean, this is going to happen again at some point. We also have booster stations. Our booster stations are set up with 2 pumps where we have like a lead pump and a lag pump. So if the lead pump can't handle the demand, the lag pump kicks on to get a tank level or pressure, whatever we're trying to do, and then just kind of rotates back and forth. We have multiple booster stations where both pumps are running nonstop. And if one of them fails, we probably wouldn't be able to maintain flows and pressures to meet the demand of that area.
Do those booster pumps have to, I mean, just because of the size of the city, they have to be there? I mean, right?
Yes, that's how we can fill certain tanks at a time. And then like if houses are on a hill, we can make pressures as well.
Got it.
How old are those booster pump or booster stations?
We have a lot. Some of them are less than 10 years old. We have some, I don't know how old they are. We have some very antiquated ones as well.
This is just a quick question before we move on too far. So in that aerial view of the existing water plant, is there enough space for expansion? Is there enough
Yes.
physical room? Okay.
Yes, it doesn't really look like it in any of the pictures. When you see it drawn out plat-wise,
It makes
there
sense.
is.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, our SCADA system. It's supervisory control and data acquisition. It's what controls the system. We can see all the tank levels and pressures and turn on and off pumps from the water plant itself. So we don't always have a dozen people driving around to pump and checking levels. It's how we control everything. We can also actually automate a lot of the treatment as well to, refine the dosages. Our system is obsolete. And for a while there, when parts go down, we were having to go to eBay, other third-party suppliers, to try to find what is actually out there. It's dried up now. We can't find any more parts. As parts go down our SCADA system, that section of town is down. And then we're sending people out there to manually turn on pumps, check the levels. And then we have the lead service line inventory come up with distribution system. That is going to be costly. It's out of our control. That is mandated by the EPA. And every water system in the country is going through it, but that will be costly as well. And we're needing to get things done so we don't have to throw out conserved water orders in the future. So people can keep irrigating their yards, golf courses, car washes, all these things we take for granted.
Do you have a ballpark on how much that'll end up being? And are you able to do it phased in over years, or what's the timeline on that?
The numbers I'm gonna leave to her.
Okay, I got you.
But yes,
Yeah.
phase wise, yes.
You can phase them in over a year, so it's the
A lot
unfunded
we can.
mandate portion of, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And
Yes.
there you
Good
go.
question. So
Can I ask a couple questions, Mayor? Okay.
Of course.
I guess a couple questions. We take this very serious. We operate in facts, but we do care about the city and what's going on, and this is kind of touching our heart, but as you share over years, this just didn't happen yesterday.
No.
The point that we have to make some critical decisions for our city. I guess a couple questions I have, and Casey mentioned, Alliance been in partnership with the city for 30 years. And Casey mentioned some Band-Aid things have been done. Why has the approach been short-term Band-Aid for something at this level of a city service? Since you all have partnership, for 30 years, why was that been the approach for something of this magnitude?
The Band-Aids word I don't really like. We'll get into a lot of the projects that we have done to keep the city going full of supply of water. So we will talk more about that, but they're short-term as in they won't last forever, but they are changing the actual infrastructure, not just, hooking up some made-up thing in the night. They're legit repairs, but they're not big capital improvement projects that need to be done.
So I guess in your tenure or the agreement, is this the first aggressive attack to upgrade a valuable city system for our community?
Yes.
So this is the first of its kind to address these serious concerns to make our city healthy.
Yes, and as
Okay.
you'll see, which we'll talk about in just a second,
Okay.
there's a lot of big numbers involved with
Okay.
all of what we're talking about this evening. We've never had the funding.
Okay.
Honestly, we've had some money over the years to put into the distribution system, and
Okay.
we have done some projects at the water plant, but nothing of the magnitude that we're talking about
Okay.
this evening. Yeah,
Okay.
good
Thank
question.
you.
Yeah, good question.
I hear your passion. I like it.
It's a lot that
Okay.
goes into it.
On that note, I'm so sorry. We were just talking, we had a budget workshop the other day, and we're talking about the big upgrade that we had, and if you could remind us of when that happened, to the sewer system. But that's different than this. And that was a large, can
Are
you,
you talking about the new treatment plant?
the wastewater, yeah,
Yeah,
sorry.
so the new
That was
wastewater plant came online in 2014.
2014, okay. And that was like a $50 million,
It was closer to 70.
$70 million project, okay. Well, I just know we're still carrying a lot of debt for that, and there's so many different systems. It's going to be tough for just all of us in the public to keep it all straight, but you're doing a great job so far, so keep going. I just wanted to point that out.
So this is all drinking water. Wastewater is, anything that goes down the drain.
Right.
So all potable that
Okay.
we're talking about this evening.
Okay.
So I would like to mention, JJ has went over all the projects that we currently are working on right now. DNR has been with us every step of the way. They're very, sorry. DNR has been with us every step of the way with all the projects that we've spoke about so far this evening. They're very pleased with all the progress that we have made. Actually came down a month or two ago and did a tour of the facility and saw kind of the similar presentation that you're all seeing this evening. So we are keeping them in the loop on everything that we are doing. So with all the projects that we've mentioned so far comes a cost, right? And it's large. We are working with several different engineering companies. The filter gallery project is currently estimated to be a little over $3 million. The line feed and chemical feed projects are a little over $6 million. Corrosion control, $380,000. Plant expansion. The big one that we would bring the fourth treatment train online to be able to increase our capacity to 10.5 million gallons is just shy of $9 million. And the SCADA system that we currently have, as JJ mentioned, is antiquated, would be about $830,000. So a little over $19 million is what we have identified as what our critical current needs are. The good news is, working with our awesome finance department and Lisa, the filter gallery project and the lime feed project, I believe, are funded through construction. So that gets us through those first two projects. And then we're just looking at the bottom three there that we are trying to figure out how do we get those projects moving forward to get over some of these pinch points that we're currently seeing. Okay, so we mentioned the plant stuff. So the distribution system, We had a water system facility plan update that CMT performed that was completed in 2022. They have identified all these projects that we're speaking about this evening. Within that facility plan, they also identified several booster pump stations that JJ mentioned, that both the pumps are running constantly and we're not having a lead and lag pump. They estimate that the booster pump station work would be about 7.7 million. High priority water mains, so upgrading some of our distribution mains would be about 28 million. And then other recommended water mains, which would include medium priority water main upgrades and low priority water main upgrades. They estimated to be almost 54 million. So a big, big number at the bottom, $89+ million. So we mentioned that Alliance has done a lot of work to keep us up right now so that we are still able to produce high quality water and enough water with a lot of projects that they have done in-house. So JJ is going to talk about the 6 projects that they've been able to do already. They've been able to complete these by thinking outside the box and coming up with some pretty amazing solutions to some of the issues that we've had.
Okay, this is back to where I started off about the filter gallery and the pipe when it went from the south to the north, kept reducing. If you look at that picture there, that's the very northern part of that trunk that comes up. That's a 14-inch pipe reducing down to an 8. Then it's on a T. So you have an 8-inch feeding 2 8-inch pipes, and it's not pressurized, it's just gravity. So pretty much you're losing half the flow right there. So it's 50 square inches feeding 100 square inches, no pressure. And that could end up being about 750 gallons per day difference once the expansion goes. I'll lay off the numbers.
50,000.
What?
750,000.
Yeah, 750,000, yes. So what we did is we found that we had to shut the plant down, drain it all the way down to below the level of that. It's in the basement too, of the pipe. Drained it all out, cut the pipe. We put in a valve and then a 14-inch T. Not easy to get to if you remember the very first picture of the congested piping gallery. We were able to get it in, and now we have a 14-inch feeding 2 8-inch pipes instead of the 8 feeding 2 8s. That's going to help us out tremendously getting through the summer. Filter rehab. These filters have been in service for a couple of decades now, I believe. And over time, you lose media through backwashing. Originally, the filters had 15 inches on top. There's 4 different layers of stuff. The top was originally 15 inches. They're all way less now, some 7, some 5, some 11, whatever, but it affects how much you can get through. Not necessarily how much water you can get through and keep good, as much as how long you can get that amount through. So we, on average, had it set at about 400 gallons per minute we could get filtrate for a week. We took one of the filters, or the anthracite, the media that was missing, and got it back to the original 15 inches, and now we can get 540 gallons per minute through a filter for a week straight. And the water was still perfectly fine after a week. That's just our cycle to backwash them. So went ahead and put it back in service. So we are currently, I'm in the process of purchasing enough anthracite for 13 more filters. We're going to rehab all of them to get them through. Scaling issues. Talking about the pebble lime that our slakers feed for like lime softening right now. Very scaling stuff. And if you see that picture on the left there, that is a 36-inch pipe. It's right after 2 lime softening clarifiers, and start scaling up and got down to maybe 12 inches. And all the water in the plant flow through this pipe here. And as it gets, more and more, the smaller it gets, it's more exponential, the amount of flow you see the difference of. This was a complete nightmare to get us by. We got this done before summer last year. Otherwise, we would not have made it through last summer. But this required multiple plant shutdowns because we only have 8 hours to, drain the levels, get people in whatever we have to do, and get it back online. So it's multiple days of doing this. We had confined space entries to the point that we have to have the fire department inside in case it ended up being, a retrieval or something like that. But we had guys going in here with air chisels, chiseling out some of this lime. We've had,
Oh, my
yes, we've, one of them's right back there.
Oh. Hey, thank you. Thank you.
And we've fabricated chain cutters, which you can put on the end of a jetter and has a chain with kind of, heavy ends to run through there back and forth, try and knock it out. We did have to do some excavation, excavate one day and then, cut the pipe, clamp it, and because we only have 8 hours, and pull it out and, access it from that way. But we did finally get it good enough so that we could get through last summer, because we would not have made it.
I have to ask, how wide, is that just something you find in the plant, or is that widespread throughout?
It would be at the plant.
Okay.
Plant only, because
Okay.
further downstream of that
Oh,
pipe, it's
oh.
the same pipe on the right. But we feed CO2 there, which when it's pressurized carbonic acid, and the lower pH of that kept that pipe clean.
Okay.
So what we also did, which this one was the spring, the square there on the bottom right, that is where we inject the carbonic acid into that pipe, and it helps stabilize the water, is a way to say it. Those two clarifiers you see up there, those are both lime softening clarifiers, which was causing all that scale. We obviously couldn't feed acid to them because the softening process wouldn't have worked. Those rectangular uprights by them, that's the effluent where the water leaves. So we tapped into the CO2 feed line before that pit there where it ties in. And we have a line buried now between those clarifiers on the backside. They're going up and in. So we're feeding the carbonic acid right after the water's lime softened. And we'll find out over time, but theoretically, that will keep the scale from coming back. That will not be an issue again. This here, you asked how old the plant was. It's 1931, but there was an expansion in 1967. This pit was put in then, and that picture there is a lot of the original to that expansion. To operate 2 of our 3 clarifiers, this drain pit has to happen. There's 4 valves in there, like 2 3 inches, 2 6 inches. The 3s are for operational to dial in sludge levels, big ones that drain, stir up sludge. Over the years, it's about 15 feet down, no space to work, but we had to get down in there, repair valves, do everything we can to keep, as they fail. They finally failed and seized up to the point of no return last fall. And so, obviously we only had one solution there, and that was completely demo, redesign, and put in all new infrastructure down there. This is not a current picture of it. All the old pipes and valves you see on the top, that's all looks very similar to the new piece there. It's all nice, bunch more room for our guys to do maintenance down there as needed, and it's all new equipment. So that was a success. And now we have all 3 clarifiers back in operation. We were down there for a while, down to 2 as that pit failed. Okay, on to the polymer. When we were talking about the source water changes, like the iron levels going up and down, arsenic, other contaminants now in there, all varying. The actual charge of the source water has also changed some. And when I was talking about that one clarifier that's not lime softened, we had an oxidant, and then a coagulant. The coagulant is the polymer. And there's 3 basic types. There's a cationic, anionic, and non-ionic. I won't go too far in. So we normally feed a non-ionic. So what we did was we ordered samples, 6 different types of polymers, 3 cat, 2 anionic, or 3 anionic. And over a month, we were taking samples and running jar tests at various pHs and temperatures and iron levels, and just seeing, what works the best. And what we found is that there were 2 anionic polymers that performed best, simply put. So we ordered 100 pounds of each one of those, and we're in the process of doing full-scale trials of them to select which one to use in the future, because eventually, once we have a hydrated lime feed system to lime soften all of them, this won't be needed. But we need that clarifier until then. So this is the solution to get us through until we can lime soften all the clarifiers. And this is my last slide, chlorine booster. We were talking earlier about how we need to feed the chlorine and ammonia feed points that way, because it was dissipating before it went to the filters and causing issues with having free ammonia because the chlorine dissipated, so we no longer have chloramines. At the very end, they're called a high service pumps. Those are the pumps that pump water out to the distribution system, and big portion of the town's under the pressure from the plant. And to keep those levels above a 1 part per million, which is required by DNR, last summer when I was saying we maxed out what we could feed, 15 parts to the blend tank, and still didn't have enough, we were able to tap one of the suction sides of one of our 4 high service pumps. We were able to get in some sodium hypochlorite bleach, pretty much, and metering pumps to pump into pump 3 there. And we were able to boost the chlorine level up high enough to maintain the chlorine levels entering the system, and also tied up that free ammonia as well to help prevent the nitrites nitrates, the blue baby syndrome. That was a success, but we can only do that when pump 3 is running right now, when it's the one of the 2 pumps in service, and also the supply of the drums of bleach and storage. We have some issues with that, so it's not a long-term thing, but we can do it for a week at a time as demand gets up there.
Funding. Okay, so JJ has went over all of the projects that we currently have under some sort of phase of design, and all the projects that they have done in-house. So just kind of to reiterate, currently our only funding mechanism that we've got for any of the water project is our CIST, and that is what we are using to fund the filter gallery project and the line feed system. We also use some of those dollars to do the facility master plan update, which a lot of these projects originated from. So the plant improvements for the current peak demand, so that would include the filter gallery, the line feed system, the corrosion control, the polymer, not forgetting one at the end, the expansion of the 4th treatment train. Those we estimate to be just shy of $20 million. And the additional plant improvements needed, the $627,000 we have there includes some in-house projects that Alliance is capable of doing, but we are not able to do those until the other projects, the roughly $20 million projects, are completed. Those projects also came from the facility plan update. The booster pump station improvements needed, again, about 7.7 million. High priority water main improvements needed, about 28 million. So what are we looking at for between now and 2032? Another big number, $56 million. That's not all though. Beyond 2032, the other recommended water main improvements, so that would include the medium and low priority water main distribution system improvements, and then the additional plant capacity and resiliency improvements. So hopefully we continue to see development in Cape Girardeau. So we've got some projects in place that will get us up to about 10.5, maybe 11 million gallons per day. But at some point we're going to need to do more than that. So we've already identified projects about $10 million worth that we would need to do to get our facility beyond the 10.5, 11 million gallons per day. That would include potentially bringing the 6 current filters that are not in service right now, bringing those online to produce more water and push more water through the facility. So the big number at the bottom of the screen is $120 million is what we estimate currently for the needs that we need at the system. But the critical needs are that just shy of 20 million that you see at the top there. One thing that I will also mention is that last year, the city completed a water rate study. And the gentleman that completed that study, Mr. Carl Brown, is scheduled to come and speak at the June 3rd council meeting. So in that meeting, he'll go over some of his findings that he found with our water rates and some of the recommendations that he has in his report. So he'll go into that in a lot more detail. So with that, we know we threw a lot of information at you, a lot of technical information, a lot of chemistry, a lot of big dollar amounts. You asked some questions already, but what other questions do you have for us?
I just had a question. Is there any federal funding at all for any of these kind of projects?
Not that we have currently found. There is some funding out there for the lead service line inventory. The city was awarded $162,000 for that. Just got word, which I haven't even told Dr. Haskin yet, and we may have just gotten another about $30,000 for that, but that's still not enough to actually complete the inventory. One of the things that Mr. Brown will talk about when he comes in June is that one of his findings was our affordability index, or AI rating, with the city of Cape Girardeau is 0.25. The national acceptable standard is 1. And what that means is that 1%, you know, for your average household should spend about 1% of their monthly income on their water system, the water rate. So currently we're at 0.25, national acceptable average is 1. And that is one of the things that particularly DNR looks for whenever we apply for assistance through them. They want that AI index to be at 1 or greater, and we're not there yet.
You said there, when your answer, I think, was perhaps answering in we as a city haven't found yet federal funding, but it does exist. Is that correct to say? I mean, there are I mean, this is the theme of the current federal administration's, thing. There's a lot of infrastructure money out there, and these kinds of projects do receive them, have been receiving them in other cities across the country.
We have applied when all the COVID money, for lack of a better term, came out. The city did put in an application for that. Unfortunately, we were not granted any of those fundings. We were successful in the lead service line inventory, but any grant opportunity that we find, we are applying for.
Sure.
But a lot of times that AI index is a big indicator on whether we're able to receive funding or not.
But just to be clear, the bipartisan infrastructure law,
It's there.
it is all about infrastructure dollars, federal infrastructure dollars.
Yes.
And this is a huge category that is funded.
What you learn though is that there's a flip side. So if you look back at historical councils and our budgeting process, we kept our water rates low for our citizens and kept them low. And that's where that affordability index is 0.25. A lot of these federal dollars come in the form of grants that are gone through the system.
Right.
And a lot of the qualification standards for those grants is at 1%. And so we don't even meet the first threshold to be able to get that, so.
So I mean, safe to say, there's local, state, and federal funding opportunities.
If they're willing to
Or-
overlook their standards and their qualifications that they have. Yeah.
We apply for everything that we can find.
Sure.
Whenever we start tossing around $100+ million stuff, I just have to ask, what does a new plant cost? If you were to just go out and find a better location and build a new plant, what does that cost?
So a lot of variables in that.
Right.
But I mean, not to sound silly, but like just a quick Google search, the entry comes up between $12 and $15 million per million gallon per day.
Okay.
And we're needing to get up to, at least 10 and a half, 11 for
Sure.
starters for now. Yeah.
All right.
So it's a big number.
Yeah.
I guess the question I had, so we as a city, and Dr. Haskin shared some, we have some money that we have worked in the last, 2 or 3 years, Dr. Haskin. What source does that come from, and how much is that the city, and I know we just had our budget meeting, and a lot of the main terms was cost recovery from all the departments, which is good because we internally working to see what funds we have available to be able to attack aggressively this need. And so I was wondering, what funds do that come out of, and exactly about how much is that again, Dr. Haskin, that we currently have to go forward if we have to make a decision to do it tomorrow?
Thank you. I think we have close to $7 million. And that funding comes from our savings in our CIST program. We've intentionally made sure that we budgeted conservatively over the past 2.5, 3 years because we saw that this issue was certainly moving in this direction.
That, the CIST, the capital improvement sales tax, which was a voter-improved sales tax from 2019, an extension of that. So that comes from our sales tax collection. That's, I think, an important part to make sure everybody understands.
So are you saying, the reason you're not, well, some of the reason you're not able to even seek funding is because of that AI index level? Does just top 3 qualifications and we just not there yet? And then that water rate, that potentially, council approve or not, would help with that and bringing potentially more funds to the city in addition to. So one affects the other. If you don't get one, it doesn't trickle the other way as well. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
What is the minimum, when you're looking at state or federal assistance? One is the number that like the minimum threshold?
Yes, 1 seems to be the threshold that they're looking for. I haven't seen anything less than 1. If it's above 1, they're fine with that, but anything less than 1, you get way less points on your application.
Sure. Okay.
I
Other
had
questions?
I had a question. Just out of curiosity. So you guys are in the business of the supply of our water. And so that supply needs to meet the demand, the usage. And so the demand, is it safe to say with community growth and population growth and industry growth, for a thriving community that supplies services for our whole region, that every year we set all-time highs for our usage? Are we at that level? Are we trending upwards, or is it pretty flatlined?
Upwards, yes.
Yeah. So sustained over the year, every year we grow from one year to the next. And then our highest usage for a day or a week, do we see big spikes like that throughout the year that
Throughout
we
the-
unprecedented?
Yes, we may not have like the highest for a day, that might last for a few years, but
Yeah.
every year there is more usage going out. And there's a period for a couple months there that gets really, we have our plants maxed out and we're sitting there for days just watching the tank levels slowly go down. It's pretty scary.
So we're
Summer,
putting-
presumably, summer.
Yeah,
So-
summer, yes.
yeah. So we're putting there's more demand on a system that was designed in 1931 every year, year in and year out. We're putting more demand on it as it's aging. Okay.
So team, would you consider this plant failing?
I'm going to say no, just because of all the work that Alliance has put into it. We certainly get our money's worth by having them as our contract operator for our water system. They continually think outside the box with fixes. They're continually to look for ways to increase capacity through the facility. They're amazing to work with. So I wouldn't say the system is failing. We've been able to keep it up to an acceptable level so far, but we're getting to the point where we're not really sure what else we can do to keep where we need to be with producing the high quality water that our citizens are used to.
Definitely met capacity.
I want to thank you guys for your innovation, creative approach to do that. Just a background, when we brought up the wastewater treatment facility, that came because we were not given an option, right? We had reached the point with DNR that we were penalized and we were in violation. So we had to build the new one. And we don't want to get there with the actual water treatment facility. But if these improvements aren't made, I feel like we're on borrowed time already from what you're saying. So, okay. Thank you, guys.
We have a plan.
Yes, we have a plan.
Some additional.
Okay. And so we'll hear in a few weeks more about the water rates and the kind of those local cost, the local plan.
That
we
is
have.
correct, Mayor. That is our second phase of this rollout, is to bring in our consultant to explain, the financial piece and how we can actually get to point of being able to finance these improvements.
Well, I would like to say, it's okay, Mayor. I really appreciate, especially on my tenure, anybody tenure before, that this is not a Band-Aid. We're really taking care of a wound just to, keep our city healthy. And I appreciate your work and your diligence and your confidence. And the city would need that right now as a council. So thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Haskin, for this aggressive attack, And so this is important, it's valuable in moving our city forward, so.
Yeah, so later on in the agenda, we'll be talking about really the very first move to start addressing all this. So thank you all very much. There'll be a lot more discussion, I know, so thanks for the first round. And thanks again to you in the back, Mr., I didn't catch your name, but the unsung hero that we now know is crawling through and scaling our, whew. What's your name? What's your name back there? Lucas. Thank you again, Lucas. I had no idea. We would have had you up and given you some flowers or something. Feel neglected. Okay. Wow. Well, that was a lot. There will be a lot more. It's a big, important thing. Obviously, it impacts every household, every business, every school, every hospital, every clinic, every faucet and toilet that we're dealing with. Maybe not the toilets, but the faucets. So this is a big, big deal. Thank you all. Okay, moving on then, we will have the consent agenda review. Dr. Haskin.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. We added 5 and 6. Number 5 is an agreement with Frontenberger for the Minnesota Avenue 74 intersection improvements. And finally, number 6, we're ready to transfer ownership of the special use permit for 3037 Lexington Avenue. Mayor, that concludes the review.
Thank you. We will now move into regular session and begin with the roll call vote.
Mark Bliss,
Here.
David Cantrell is absent, Stacy Kinder,
Here.
Brett Pierce,
Here.
Dan Presson,
Here.
Tameka Randle,
Here.
Nate Thomas.
Here.
All right, thank you. Council, we have an agenda before us. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Presson, Ms. Randle, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor then of the agenda as stated, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The agenda carries. We have one public hearing tonight. I will open the public hearing to consider a request to rezone property located at 728 Good Hope Street from C1 General Commercial District to R3 High Density Single Family Residential District. Is there anyone that wishes to appear for this public hearing? All right. This will also be on the agenda here coming up. I will close this public hearing. We will move into the consent agenda. Mr. Young.
Bill 2445, an ordinance approving the record plat of Baldwin Farm subdivision. Bill 2445, an ordinance approving the record plat of Baldwin Farm subdivision. Bill 2446, an ordinance accepting easements from various property owners for properties adjacent to Baldwin Farm subdivision in the city of Cape Girardeau, Missouri. Bill 2446, an ordinance accepting easements from various property owners for properties adjacent to Baldwin Farm subdivision in the city of Cape Girardeau, Missouri. Bill 2449, a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with Frontenberger Concreters, Inc. for Minnesota Avenue and Missouri Route 74 intersection improvements in the city of Cape Girardeau, Missouri.
All right, thank you. Council, that is our consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none then, all in favor of the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That agenda carries. We had 2 items removed from the consent agenda. We will discuss them as we would a new ordinance. First is Bill 2447, a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a lease agreement with Partners for Good Hope NP for a police substation located at 629 Good Hope Street in the city of Cape Girardeau, Missouri. This is for the reading and passage. Mr. Pulley.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, Dr. Haskin. This resolution authorizes the city manager to execute a lease agreement with Partners for Good Hope. This is for a police substation at 629 Good Hope Street. This will allow the city to operate a police substation on the property under the lease. This will also allow us to redevelop an older building in the area to help promoting the redevelopment of the entire area. This lease agreement is for $12 a year. Scott Blank is also here if you have any questions questions regarding the police substation.
Mr. Blank, would you care to, okay, thanks.
Good evening. Be happy to answer any questions.
Oh.
Oh, well,
Well, I'll just start out.
I can't top Trevor.
Well, sorry, this is a project that we've been talking about and looking forward to for a long time. If you could just,
Sure.
would you mind just giving everyone a refresher and the
Sure.
brief history on the,
Sure.
on the
So we
project?
presented this, I think, all the way back in 2021, and then we started working with the chief of police on the design and all that. We got that going. And then we wanted to take a moment and use that time to apply for some grants, which we did. We were not successful with those last year. So we made the decision that win, lose, or draw, we're going to move forward with this thing. So we've reapplied for this year. But again, win, lose, or draw, we're moving forward with this because we're tired of kicking the can down the road and ready to get moving on this thing. So we've got in the front of the building has been designed to have a couple office spaces in there. And in the back of the building on the main floor, we'll have a community center that will have an outside entrance to be used after hours if need be. But the community center, the chief has expressed interest for workshops and training, but it's also an area that neighborhood organizations and stuff can gather in after hours or during hours for community events and all that. And we feel like establishing this police substation is going to be a major catalyst to allow commercial and residencies to return to this area, and that's what excites us.
Great.
I had a
If
question.
we'll let the, if anyone in the audience has a question or concern that you'd like to come forward and share. Yes, sir. If you would, please state your name and address.
Carl Atkins, 133 East Cape Rock Drive in Cape Girardeau. Just curious, is there going to be a, what's the word I'm looking for? Something showing the programming for what the reconstruction is going to look like and so forth and so on. And also, I noticed that there are approximately 3 buildings. Are they all 3 going to be absorbed into the station? Because one of them looks like it's Elite Styles, which is temporarily closed.
Okay, it's going to be the westmost building. And this process will go through all your permitting and all your inspection fees.
Oh, well, right.
And doing that, we do have some plans that Scott has provided to the city for this. Chief Blair and the city has looked over these plans. They're very nice plans. The front portion of the building is going to be for the police substation, and the back is going to be for the community center, where like some of your nonprofits, porch, a lot of the others may want to meet. And what's very good about this is going to revitalize an older historic building in that district, which in turn, which could lead to other buildings in that area being revitalized also. So this is the first phase of bringing that area up. And this was a good partnership with Scott himself and the city, where we could actually put a substation in the area that we had one there many years ago, back in the 90s.
I think it's a great idea. I'm just, being on the Historic Preservation Commission, of course, I want to make sure that it stays looking correct.
Sure. And just to clarify, the lease agreement is just for this one building. You were asking about 3. Yeah.
Scott, is it some small black print we need to know about?
Is there some lights?
Yeah. You know, the fine print at the bottom. I know, Dr. Haskin, we talked about it. Any fine print at the bottom that we need to be cautious of?
If you guys want out, you supply me we're out of here in 12 months and a $12 check and you're out. So
no.
If I don't do my job, then, and we haven't supplied a great space in an area that, what we want when it's done is we want the officers to be like, hey chief, how do we get down there? I want to work at that station. So we are going to make it, to the gentleman's point, from the outside historical looking, but on the inside, It's going to be very nostalgic, and we think it's going to be a place that people are going to want to come to and be a part of.
So,
I tell you what, is there anyone else in the audience who has a comment? Okay, thank you.
Ramona Bailey, 803 William Street. So my first question is, or comment, is not, hopefully this is not going to be over policing the people in the neighborhood, because it is in the south end of town, so we will be sure that the people aren't being over policed. You said it's $12 to rent the place or
That's
leasing.
what's in the lease
So how
agreement,
much
yes.
would it be for the citizens if they wanted to utilize the space?
Mr. Pulley, I believe the lease agreement states that the police department really would have the ability to regulate the use of that
Yes. this
commercial,
is gonna
the
be a
community
area.
space.
This
You can
is-
speak in the,
This is going to be a community area. The conference room is not, it's not going to hold 100 people. It's going to be a small conference room where you can have small meetings with a lot of your nonprofits, other thing. This substation is going to be used to assist the community. We used to have one there many years ago when I was a lot younger. You would have officers come in, they could write reports. It's just something visual where officers can be there to assist the citizens there and other things. So you're not going to have 20 to 30 officers there just to be policing in one area. It's more of a community relations to help the community where they can be more visible and to help if someone from that area wants to come up. So that's what it's for. It's not to over police. It's just to assist the community in that area or anywhere where something happens. That's what it's for. I used it many, many years ago when we had one down there. Like I said, back in the early 90s when we had a substation down there. It was used to assist in the area. You would have one or two there during the day. If an officer wants to go there at night, talk to the public, do other things, it's just to assist. That's what it's for.
Okay, so, but as far as the space, like the communities area?
There has not been a dollar amount set to use community.
Okay, so remember
center
y'all's is
night.
$12.
That
So we should-
$12 is for the.
For the whole.
Mr. Black, yeah, that's what it's for. This is
I'm
for-
just saying, so I want to host something, if St. James or something needs to host that, we don't want an astronomical amount because we know how much you all are paying. Okay.
duly noted, and I don't think that's at all the intention. I think it's, and it, to be fair, I don't think it's intended to be a venue. It's a space in the back of the building, that is a police substation. Does anyone else in the audience? Yes. If you could-
Leslie Washington, 315 Frederick Street, here in Cape. So my question is, when is this actually going to be a brick and mortar building? When is this going to be completed and done for use for the citizens of Cape Girardeau?
Great question. Mr. Blank, would you like to? Okay.
So we're gonna start the construction in July.
Okay.
And in talking to my contractor, he's anticipating having them for January of 25.
Okay, so within the next, like, 6 months roughly? Okay.
So with it all being inside work, we should be able to knock it out pretty fast with it not being contingent upon the weather.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else in the audience wishing to speak? All right, then, council, is there a motion?
I just had a question.
Well, if we can get it on,
Oh,
let's get it on the
motion.
table first,
Okay.
if that's okay. Council, is there a motion to approve Bill 2447?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion, Mr. Bliss.
I just had a question about, I know this isn't part of the lease, but what do you envision for the second floor of the building?
So we'll retain that as an apartment. It may work into some extra office space for us
Okay.
with our nonprofit to go up in there, or it may be utilized as an apartment.
Okay.
Right now, it's designed as an apartment right now.
Okay, thank you.
I just wanted to make note that I believe there's already an officer that's been hired through a grant that we received that's already down in that area working primarily out of the Salvation Army, which is kind of across the street, right? So that would be kind of manning that station. And so I want to commend the PD for, jumping on that opportunity and getting someone hired there and really filling that need. And then I can't say enough thanks to Mr. Blank for his tireless work and his personal investment that he's put into that area in general down there in Midtown Good Hope area. And we appreciate that and thank you.
Yes, I also want to thank Scott Blank, but Ramon, I always appreciate you coming forward and sharing your concerns. That is my ward, so I want to make sure I work with you and the city and the community to make sure, that we work together and be able to do this. And so us bridging together the police station, the parking, upgrading, and just us being able to communicate and work together. So we're going to make sure we stay on the same accord and be able to help the community as much as we can in any way we can. And I appreciate Scott Blank. You invest a lot in that area and you allow us to partner together, be able to do that, whether if it's a nonprofit, which I work for, the city. I think it's very valuable for the resources because as a community, like they said, the church, the nonprofits, the city, we leverage our resources to make the community better. So I'm glad you stopped kicking the can down the road and thank you.
Yeah, and this is a lease agreement. I think all the questions that have been asked are addressed in this lease agreement. And so thank you, Dr. Haskin and your staff, administration, as well as Mr. Blank, for working together on that and finally getting this put together. And we're excited. We really are. Anyone else? Okay. All right then. Council, all in favor of Bill 2447, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Great, that motion carries. Next, we have Bill 2448, a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with Chemco Systems LP for the procurement of a lime system at the Cape Rock Water Treatment Plant in the city of Cape Girardeau, Missouri. This is for the reading and passage. Mr.
Thank you,
Pulley.
Mayor. This resolution allows for the procurement of the new high-density lime system for the Cape Rock Water Treatment Plant number 1. As you heard earlier during Casey's presentation, she mentioned how the current lime system has reached the end of its life. And this will be a nice, useful design for the new system.
All right, thank you. Anyone in the audience wishing to comment or ask a question? Okay, council then, is there a motion to approve Bill 2448?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Bliss, I'm not sure. All right, discussion.
After that presentation, I can't think of a more, of a better project for us to move forward with. Nothing is more important than fresh, clean water in this community. And so I'm glad that we're able to utilize these funds to do this system upgrade. So.
I just had one question, and that is, what's the timeline for getting this done?
If this is approved by council, we will contact the company tomorrow. It's a 36-week out delivery time. They will build this for the city of Cape Girardeau. This is not something you can buy off the shelf. So as soon as we contact them, if it's passed tomorrow, they will start building it and ship it to us.
All right, thank you.
I had a question, but this is just one part of the immediate need.
Yes, ma'am.
Was it a $7 million?
This is the procurement of just the items,
Uh-huh.
just the materials we need.
Uh-huh.
So this is the first step. So once we get the items here, we will go out for bids for labor to actually put it into our new water plant to take out the old system, put in the new system. And this is just one of the portions of phase 1. And then we'll start working on the pipe gallery.
So I'm confused. Can I have a follow-up? So you're saying this is just for the materials. The labor will come in a subsequent resolution we will have to pass?
Yes,
Has
they
it
will,
been?
sir. Yes. So
Do we have
this
any
is-
idea what that ballpark figure might be?
We estimated between the line feed and the pipe gallery, 7 million the first phase alone.
Okay, so that's
Yes,
covering
and
materials
that
and
is
labor.
covered in the first phase.
That's what I was
With
confused.
the, so we have to do it in phases to get the materials, the labor, and then once we get the line system feed in, we'll start with the pipe galleries. We'll have to bid those out and go from there. But just like on this, the line feed system, our engineers estimated at a certain price, and this came in lower than what our engineers even estimated. So we're being vigilant about the funding. We estimate this, the city's been very good about putting some back with some of this, and then we go out for bid and get the best price for the city.
Good.
I don't, Dr. Haskin, I don't know if this is a question for you or any other administrator, but if you could just briefly explain, where we're finding the funding for this and because was all of this targeted when we passed the CIST in 2019? Or is this something that's we've been able to?
Well, of course, the CIST initiative was put in place to address not just this issue, but a myriad of issues within the city. But what we've found out recently over the past year and a half or so is that this plant has gotten to the point to where, I consider it reaching its useful life, so that we had to start dedicating, thanks to Lisa and her good budgeting, these funds set aside for this purpose. Now, we could have spent every single dime in other areas of the city easily, but we knew this was coming, and it was good that we were prepared for it.
I had 2 points, one question, maybe for the people who presented earlier, but 37 plus weeks, can we make it 37 plus weeks on the current system?
Yes, sir. Alliance is doing a very good job of keeping very clean and very quality water for the city of Cape. They did last summer and they are now. Yes, they are doing a very good job of keeping it going. Yes, we can. And I have spoken both Casey and Alliance, and they think they're, as long as we get this moving as quick as we can and move forward. Now, if we do have a very hot and dry summer where we have temperatures above 100 degrees for a month, are we going to run into possible problems? We could. But Alliance is doing very well right now for the city of Cape of fixing things and moving forward for us.
Thanks. And I wanted to thank you again and Lisa also for being able to come up with this emergent need coming up with and Dr. Haskins for this opportunity that we can even consider this resolution and the funding of this. And so we take our drinking water, clean drinking water for granted. And this is one step in a long process, but I also appreciate that you guys took and phased it out and have the incremental steps and the prioritization so that we know we can pass here. This is of dire need. I don't know, we keep saying it reaches useful life, but by the looks of those pictures, that may be an understatement. I mean, it seems like we're past that at this point. So I hope that this passes and that we can move forward and fix the things that need to get fixed. So.
Anyone else? Okay. Council, then, all in favor of Bill 2448, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That motion carries. We have several new ordinances tonight. First is Bill 2450, an ordinance amending Chapter 30 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Cape Girardeau, Missouri by changing the zoning of property located at 728 Good Hope Street in the City and County of Cape Girardeau, Missouri from C1 to R3. It's first reading. Mr. Shrimplin.
Good evening. This is a rezoning request for a property that contains what was built as a duplex, but it's been zoned C1 for several years, which is a commercial zoning district, does not allow residential uses. While the duplex was occupied, it was considered a non-conforming use, but due to the length of vacancy, that non-conforming status has expired. The property sold recently, and the new owner would like to renovate it and use it again as a duplex, hence the request to rezone to R3.
Anyone in the audience wishing to comment? No? Seeing none, then council, is there a motion to approve Bill 2450?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion. It struck me, we don't often move in this direction with the zoning, and so I appreciated all the information that you gave us. And it was interesting to note that on the future land use, it's a, what's the designation?
For that
urban mixed
particular-
use or,
Yes,
yeah, which is certainly in conformity of
right,
that. So,
right.
anyone else? No? Okay, all in favor then of Bill 2450, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That motion carries. Bill 2451, an ordinance approving the record plat of Latham's First Subdivision. This is the first reading. Mr. Shrimplin.
This is a plat to combine two single-family residential lots into one. They have the same owner. The couple have a home on the one lot. They'd like to build a detached accessory structure on the other lot, and under the code, they have to be on the same lot.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to comment? Okay, hearing none then. Council, is there a motion to approve Bill 2451?
Second.
Mr. Presson, Mr. Thomas, any further discussion? All right, all in favor then of Bill 2451, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That motion carries. Bill 2452, an ordinance approving the record plat of Sire Enterprises subdivision. It's first reading.
This is an industrial zoned lot on Russmar Street. The owner would just like to split it into 3 lots.
Okay, thank you. Anyone in the audience wishing to comment? No? All right. Council, is there a motion to approve Bill 2452?
So moved.
Second.
Is there a second? Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor then of Bill 2452, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That motion carries. And lastly, we have Bill 2453, an ordinance authorizing the issuance of special tax bills for various properties for the demolition of dangerous buildings and for the abatement of nuisances located in the city and county of Cape Girardeau, Missouri. That's the first reading.
So the city recently caused 3 condemned structures to be demolished. And so pursuant to the code, we have the ability to recoup that through issuing special tax bills. Some of these also involve some nuisance charges. So it's all inclusive.
Okay. Anyone in the audience wishing to comment? No, seeing none then. Council, is there a motion to approve Bill 2453?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
I'd just like to say I appreciate the city staff and the efforts. The council has talked about this before and the importance of demolishing some of these dangerous structures. And so this is a great step.
Thank you.
Agreed. All right, council, all in favor then of Bill 2453, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That motion carries. We just had one round of appointments tonight for the Downtown Cape Girardeau Community Improvement District Board of Directors. And that board has the ability to nominate and basically select their own appointments. They are recommending the appointment of Lori Everett, Kent Zickfield, Nate Savarino, and Lee Schlitt for terms expiring May 16, 2028. Is there a motion to approve those appointments?
I motion to approve those appointments.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Randle. Any further discussion? All in favor then of those 4 appointments, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That motion carries. Congratulations to them, and thank you for your continued service to all those folks. We did not have anyone registered under other business. I do have one thing, and Mr. Young or Mr. Taylor, correct me if I'm doing this out of place, but we had various nominations for city council positions to occupy liaison positions in various boards and commissions. I sent that list to you earlier. And if we could do that now, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, we'll just go ahead and make that proper. Okay, well, pursuant to according to the list I sent earlier, is there a motion to approve those appointments moving forward for council appointments?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
All right, any further discussion from anyone? Okay, all in favor then, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Great. All right. I believe that is it. Is there a motion to adjourn tonight?
So moved.
Mr. Presson, Ms. Randle, thank you. Any discussion? All in favor of adjournment, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you all for your attendance.
There we have it. There we are.
It's been a while since we did our
I know. It's killing me. I want to go. Oh.